Hi, greetings, and welcome. If you've tapped in, meaning you're viewing us right now, then you have officially entered the TEG Talk, right? Not the TED Talk.
Not TED, T-E-G.
You have officially entered the TEG Talk. My name is Crystal Buckram.
And I am Caitlin Fontaine.
And we are just a fraction. We have two additional members, Charity Cohen and Amari Bowe, but we are a minute portion of a new organization entitled
The Esther Generation, also known as TEG. So people are inquiring. They're intrigued. They want to know what TEG is all about. What is the purpose of TEG?
So the Esther Generation is a vision that God gave me several years ago. I had everything laid out. Everything was written out. I had the vision documented because I was definitely on my Habakkuk grind, write the vision and make it plain.
Yes.
So everything was written out, Caitlin, but it simply didn't manifest. And I honestly believe that it failed to manifest because it wasn't the right time. But when you think about our name, the Esther Generation, it derives from the biblical book of Esther in the Bible. And in this particular book, we find a young woman who is catapulted into a place of prominence. She becomes a queen. But at a particular juncture, she is faced with a dire circumstance.
Yes.
Her people, or the Jewish people, are being faced with extermination. They're being faced with annihilation, or pretty much like a Holocaust. And it's at this moment that her cousin Mordecai poses to her a very sobering inquiry. And he's all but letting her know, listen, Esther, you can't possibly think that you're in this position by chance, but it must be at this very moment. And he says to her, could it be that you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? In other words, how about you use your influence to make a change? A catalyst of change, so to speak. Something needs to be done. Someone needs to step in, and that agent of deliverance is probably you right now, Esther. And so when I consider that particular story, I think about young women in general. I think about the degradation that so many young women are dealing with right now in the culture, within society. So we're dealing with things like suicide. We're dealing with things like low self-esteem. We're dealing with things like self-mutilation. We're dealing with things like teen pregnancy, various substance abuse addictions. We're dealing with things like sexual misidentity. Just really not knowing who you are. And when I think about who we are, and I think about the fact that we have the message of Jesus Christ and how he really brings change into the lives of individuals, it makes me look at myself and say, is there more that I could be doing? And how could I utilize my gifts, my talents, my purpose to also be an agent of change? Hence, the Esther Generation. And so we're not just talking about it, we want to be about it. We want to be out here making an impact. And that's really why we exist, right?
Yes.
Is to impart, is to impact, and is to equip young women to maximally, number one, to know their identity, and to maximally, with reckless abandonment, operate in their God-given calling. So that's what we're doing. So as a young woman, right, this really resonates with you. So maybe you can talk about your thoughts, your feelings, and how being a mentor, because you'll be a mentor within this particular program, but what does the Esther Generation mean to you, for you?
So I think mentorship right now is very needed.
Very much
it's
so.
so needed right now because in today's society, they're just projecting these images that are not of God.
Absolutely.
So I was looking at a sermon by Sarah Jakes Roberts, and she says in it, God has been waiting for you to get a mirror in front of you so that you will start reaching towards what he knows and what he has already said about you. These are things that God has already said about us.
Absolutely.
So I just think that the Esther Generation is simply a mirror. It's the mirror that is looking, just reminding you of what God has already said about us, about you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, and the thing about that is the Esther generation is built on various pillars.
Yes.
The number one pillar, and I think it's very important for people to understand that we are a ministerial mentorship, okay?
Yes.
So we're not just, there are other mentorships that are just as important, that are just as effective, but we are unapologetic in letting people know that our basis is biblical, right? And so there is the biblical instructional part. That's one pillar, right? And then we have a sociological component. So we're looking at the social, the emotional, the physical part of beings. And then we have a recreational piece. We want young women to be biblical. We want them to know the Bible, to understand the Bible, to live according to biblical principles. We want them to be healthy and whole, high self-esteem, high self-worth, know who you are, and be unapologetic about that. But in addition to that, we want them to be well-rounded, right? So we're exposing them to things like seminars and symposiums. We're going to do things like equestrian parks. We're going to go to symphonies. We're going to go to operas. We're going to go to shows and things of that nature. Just really exposing, because listen, we understand that some of the mentees that we're going to come in contact with, they probably have never ever left Greensboro.
Right.
And I need people to understand that there is so much to see, so much to engage, that you can be sanctified, you can be set apart, and you can still have exposure.
Yes.
But then we're also going to have an evangelistic piece. Now, personally, this is very important to me because growing up, the church that I grew up in had two components that were non-negotiables. Theological, you had to know the Word of God, and it was important that it was accurately interpreted. But in addition to that, there was an evangelistic piece, right? So the Bible tells us, number one, that we are to compel men and women to come to Christ, but then we should be ready to give an answer to every man for the hope that lies within. You say you believe in Christ. Can you tell me why you believe in him? Right. So we are taking the gospel, the message of Jesus Christ, the change, the transformation to the streets, right? But we're not only taking it to the streets, but we're taking it places where we know we're going to meet young women. So some of the places we're going to go to, women's correctional institutions.
Yes.
So we're doing women's prison ministry as well as recidivism. We're going to go to battered women's shelters. We're going to go to urban ministries. We're going to we're going to have things like Chat and Chew. We are going into marginalized communities, and we're places where there kind of are like food deserts or food inequities. So we're going to take them a meal while sharing the hope of the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Yes.
We look to engage in AIDS and HIV initiatives. I am thrilled about this, helping out with Habitat for Humanity, engaging in prayer walks where we go on the campuses of local schools and just pray. In light of what has recently happened in Madison, Wisconsin, we need to be on those campuses praying.
Yes.
Oh, but in addition to that, you're going to be initiating something on college campuses, right?
Yes.
We call it C3, Christ, college, and conversation. What do you intend to do with that?
So what I intend to do is hit up the college campuses.
They need a lot of help, right?
Yes. I just really want to be that catalyst that you were talking about in the beginning. Just that light to where younger women like me don't always have to follow the crowd that everybody else is, going towards.
Absolutely.
That God is
the sustainer.
Yes. So I just think hitting up the campuses is not just going to be me, it's also going to be my girls too. So yes.
Letting them know they're not alone, right?
Letting them know they're not alone, that they have that sisterhood even on campus.
Absolutely. And you said a wonderful thing. You mentioned sisterhood.
Yes.
And the reality is that that's what we're all about. Cultivating healthy connections, cultivating loving connections, and helping young women to understand that there can be a camaraderie, a connectivity, a community that is healthy, that is whole, that is godly, that keeps us accountable.
Yes.
Those are wonderful things. So those are just some of the pillars. We look to be biblically based.
Yes.
We look to be sociologically strong. We are going to be exposed in terms of our recreation, and we're going to be evangelistic. We outside, right?
We outside.
Speaking of being outside, right? What are we doing this weekend?
This weekend, we will be downtown Greensboro.
December the 21st. Yes. Doing what?
handing out blessing bags and also sharing the
gospel.
The gospel.
The gospel.
Yes, to the homeless.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So she's right. We are disseminating blessing bags, but in addition to that, we're going to be doing a prayer walk.
Yes.
We're going to be doing a prayer walk at a local high school. Again, when we think of the school shootings that are terrorizing our nation right now, and then all of the other stuff that goes on campuses, on public campuses, we do believe that we can walk around those particular areas, and through prayer, we can be those agents of change and be those agents of deliverances. And so we are excited, girl.
Very excited.
We are excited. And we're not keeping it local.
No.
We have a global perspective because not only are we targeting Guilford County, but we've already made connections in Wake County, even with some of the prison systems there. So we've made connections in Wake County. We look to target the surrounding counties. We look to go into Danville, Virginia.
Yes.
We look to go into other states. Thank God for the men and women of God who have reached out and said, hey, listen, when you guys get up and running, can you come and share this in our vicinities?
Yes.
And then we also have some international connections as well. Barbados, Bermuda. So we are definitely outside. Looking to do major things. We're not keeping it local, but we're going to go global. And we're doing everything to the glory of God. And so listen, we're asking you, if you think that this is something that is relevant for your daughter, your nieces, your goddaughters, your neighbors, the girls, the young women at your church, the young women within your school, tutorial programs. We failed to mention that, but we're also looking to go into schools and offer free tutorial programs to students who are at risk academically. Wherever there are young women who are in need of empowering, we do believe that we are that agent of change, the Esther generation. So here's our contact information. If you want to get in touch with, wait a minute, we have a launch coming up.
We do.
We have a launch coming up. Tell them a little bit about our launch.
Our launch is February 1st, 2025 at 10 a.m.
Absolutely.
At
Fairfield Inn & Suites.
Yes.
In Winston, North Carolina.
Yes.
We will be presenting our wonderful mentors, Caitlin Fontaine.
Yes.
Charity Cohen. And Amari Bowe. We have different subsets. We are targeting grades 4 through 12, but there will be different subsets. But in addition to that, we're going to have games, we're going to have fellowship, we're going to have connection, interpersonal dynamics will be involved as well. And we have two special guests, all the way from Raleigh, North Carolina. Diamond and Emerald McNeil will be engaged in our in a panel discussion. These are phenomenal young women who will be excellent points of references in terms of how to live a godly life as a young woman, how to be goal-oriented, how to stay focused, how to veer away from pitfalls that come for us all. We believe this is going to be a phenomenal time of registration, but also carving out paths of deliverance, of focus, of vision for young girls everywhere. And so feel free to join us. It's free. It's open to the public. If you want to contact us directly, you can reach me via email, cbuckram, CBUCKRHAM @gmail.com, or you can call us 336-609-4118. So listen, Caitlin, I am ecstatic. I am excited about galvanizing and about what this will be, the impartation, the level of impartation that we will have in the lives of women, the impact, the change that I don't believe will simply be temporal, but that I believe will be eternal. So any parting words?
Just come out February 1st. You won't be disappointed.
You won't be disappointed. And I guess we could say that mission accomplished, but the reality is our mission is just getting started.
Just getting started.
And in the words of the Esther generation, we exist
for such a time
as this. Bye.
Bye.
See you on February the 1st.
Come out.